Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to say a few words about William Kelley. William Kelley has one of the most fascinating jobs in the wine world. As editor-in-chief of Wine Advocate, he spends his career tasting, assessing, and writing about many of the world's greatest wines. However, more recently, he has also embarked on his own winemaking journey. That naturally raises interesting questions. Some people wonder how those two worlds sit alongside one another, but I also think it's worth recognizing that William's extraordinary depth of knowledge and genuine passion for wine. He's spent years immersed in the world's greatest vineyards, producers, and vintages. And when you've dedicated your life to understanding greatness, then why wouldn't you eventually want to try creating it yourself? Whether you agree or disagree, I think it makes a fascinating conversation, and that's exactly why I wanted to meet with him. One quick note before we begin, I want to apologize for the audio quality at the start of this episode. As I'm filming independently around the world, I work with multiple different crews in different parts of the world, and unfortunately, sometimes things happen, and this was one of those occasions where things did not go to plan. I genuinely considered not releasing this interview, but William shared far too much insight to just stay on my hard drive. The good news is the audio improves once we move into the cellar, so if you feel free, put on subtitles or just skip ahead to later in the episode when we arrive in the cellar. Sorry again, but thank you for your understanding, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Cheers. So today I'm in the heart of Burgundy with William Kelley, who is the editor-in-chief of Wine Advocate, and then the man crazy enough to then start growing his own grapes. So we're here in Beaune today to just thank you for taking the time. Obviously, your background's very technical and analytical, but like Burgundy and its kind of ethos, right, is very much more on feel and intuition, and it is quite romanticized. How do you balance the two?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think it comes down to your personality. I know some winemakers are very technical and never want to talk to you about, the level of free sulfides or how much carbon dioxide they diffuse into the wines, but things like that, little things, and then who become obsessive about barrels, and some who basically don't care about that at all and just want to be in the vineyards and about have that sort of level of obsession about agronomy. I find it all fascinating,
Yeah.
And whether it's the numbers side of it or the feeling side of it, I mean, I think they go very well together actually. If you have a personality that can integrate them. A lot of people either have their favorite aspects of it. Because to be a wine grower, you have to do so many different things. It's a very difficult profession.
Yeah, not a lot of people would go from being a wine critic into winemaker. I think it could have been the most terrifying thing. Personally, if you would have rated my wines badly, I would have deep down maybe some people maybe wouldn't have wanted you to have done well. And the fact that with your practices, it's starkly different to where we are right now. So it's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you only get one lifetime, and if you've got something you really want to do, you need to do, then just focus on doing it.
Sure, it's been a very interesting last 7-8 years.
It's been 10 years.
10 years,
I'm writing 50,000 wines reviewed over the last decade.
Right.
No, but it's true that I did not take vacations for a long time.
But in terms of going back to kind of more of that intuitive sense, has that been something that you've definitely developed more, obviously being in amongst the vines? Because being a critic is so analytical, right?
Well, in some ways, yes, but in other respects, the two are very similar because both are about observation. Right? Agronomy and winemaking are both fundamentally about observing what's going on and then adjusting, because what you do in the vineyards is you adjust parameters of an ecology. In the winery, you're adjusting the parameters of a microbial ecology. It's fundamentally very, very similar sort of processes. And the plants tell you so much. You see the color of the leaves, the thickness of the tissue, the vitality of the plants. I don't know how tall this grew last year. You can look at the ratio between the wood that it's produced this year and the thickness of the pruning wood from last year, and you see where it's going. So you just have to adapt your practices to your observation.
And in terms of canopy management, we'll get into, because I know you do have a lot of mentors and a lot of people that have inspired you, but definitely more like actually in the vineyard. Is there any particular people, especially more in the side of things?
The first person to do something quite so sort of different in the vineyards in terms of the canopies was Lalou Bize Leroy. So it's a huge. I was diffident to talk about influences because it feels like you get to appropriate somebody else's work and sort of latch onto their name. But honor to her, she was the person in 1999 was the first to stop doing trimming. But she was working initially with lower trellising and then just sort of wrapping the canopies around. If you do that, you get very compact foliage and then you get disease. So the logical progression for her was to then gradually move towards higher systems. And then sometimes doing this sort of triple pressage where you braid the shoots together from vine to vine. Or what we've done this year is just to leave, mostly. Have more shade. It's really want to shade the fruiting zones and the soils as well and create our own microclimate that's cooler and more susceptible to creating those sorts of flavors that we're interested in. But then today, looking at people who are doing amazing things, someone like Parcel down in Sautenay, not the most expensive wines in the region, but all his vineyards are farmed, high canopies, pressage, and I know how much it costs to do this. So just so much admiration.
Well, it's
for people doing that.
It's way lower yields, way more man time.
1,500 hours per hectare if you really want to do everything. And then if you take half the appellation max yield, that takes you to a bottle price to farm like this is sort of 40 to 60 euros per bottle just to grow it.
Yeah, and then even knowing the price of the market, it's like where is that cost benefit analysis?
I just think we're always after the next marginal improvement. But if you put a lot of what seem like marginal improvements together, you get a compounding effect, and you're something that's qualitatively different rather than quantitatively different. And then it's like, wow, that's really good. I hate to even use the word like trendy, but like obviously moving more into this style and like Eschler system, and it is more like it is becoming increasingly kind of popular. It's true, and it's photogenic, and I'm not such a fan of the Eschler personally, because when you have one stake where you were to tie this whole plant to one stake, you create a lot of branching, and you also create a situation where if you lose the basal leaves around the fruit, the fruit can be very exposed to the sun. We use Eschler on a couple of very small rows, which are difficult to have wires, but overall, I think the wires are pretty good because you create this wall of shade rather than these tightly bunched positions. I love walking behind it. It's nice and cool too. I know it is nice. You feel actually kind of going. Can't make it worse, I don't. Vineyard jungle. One does have questions about because you do have a larger surface for transpiration. So are we increasing the hydric demand on the plant, or is that successfully counterbalanced by the fact that we have more older foliage, which has a lower demand on water? We maybe create more of our own microclimate, which is a bit more humid and a bit more shaded and cooler. I don't say this is everybody could do it this way. There's a way we're trying to do it in pursuit of making the best possible wines that we can imagine. But I don't know if it's the right way. So far, the plants seem happy, but they look happy. That's it. They look very happy. So you just have to trust the signals. It looks a bit different to some of the other vines next to us. Absolutely. I feel like we have to talk about canopy management. I mean, the approach that we've taken here is an extreme one. You can see. And we've got a little tree in the which is good. All you have to do is put decoration. People make all sorts of claims about it. It's mycorrhizal root networks and things. I'm not an expert on that, but it is nice. And it's peaches quite good. A little mid snack as you're going through. Exactly. And the idea is just to respect the physiology of the plants. So we do sort of suite of practices. One is approach to the soil, which is really about decompacting it. So only animal traction for the cultivation and only backpack sprays for all of the treatments. So the amount of weight that's being distributed upon the soil is not very much, and it's very randomized. It's not, it's tractor wheel always going in the same place in the middle of the road. So that's been the case since summer 2022. I've started to, these are soils here, they're quite prone to compaction. So it's not particularly an easy terroir. It can make very good wines. So it's not a bad terroir, but it's not an easy terroir. There's some terroirs that just, even an idiot could make good wine. And this is not a vineyard that gives you the illusion of intelligence, because super easy to compact and prone to mildew and then to botrytis late season. So the challenge is to find a way of getting the grapes fully right before they start to rot. There's a lot of people, you could easily pick them a bit early on the early side, make it fruity, delicate, charming. But that's sort of the image in many people's heads of what Beaune is. But in fact, if you go down, and the neighbor kindly dug a hole I have such a small parcel, I'm not really in the business of digging holes. And after a certain depth, after about 50 centimeters, there's this blue marl.
Oh, really?
So it's like the same as in a vineyard like Beaune, high altitude sites. You always have low pH. If you can get into that and then get the grapes right, you have wines with real density and cut that is very far from the sort of fruit forward, easy stereotype of Beaune. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's pretty ballsy that you've just kind of, not really gone towards the norm, but really kind of gone your own way and you deal with a few different varieties.
You see, right, rather than these are the lateral shoots, right?
Yeah.
Rather than removing them, we cut them off. The curd, I didn't want to see any of the grapes until harvest, and that's basically true. Because if you look inside the canopies, it's where all the fruit is completely protected from the sun. I mean, what you see is and this is a repot. This is a young vine with the less established shooting system, and this has you see this yellowing basal leaf, and you'll see a few vines like that among the replants. But the original old vines in this plot don't really show any signs of it. Thank heavens, because it's tough. We also began cultivating quite early, started to preserve the hydrate reserve. We had heavy winter rains, so we didn't really want to burn through that. We knew it was going to be an early harvest. Early harvest often means it's hot and dry. In the run-up to harvest, so you conserve that hydrate reserve and be able to get the vines again fully ripe, because as I said, you can pick partially ripe and then it'll be fresh.
Yeah,
but it will never be profound. For me, I mean, this is very personal vision of things. I don't make any claim for that to be an absolute truth, but it's the truth as I see it.
Yeah, and in terms of your talk me through the site selection. Like, it's quite a process. Like, what did you do to help kind of with this parcel? So
this is actually a fun story, because I belong to two older friends of mine who are microbiology professors at the University of Berkeley, and they bought it from a retired physician at the Beaune Hospital. Had this and another small plot for his sort of weekend, hobby project, and they made wine for about 20 years, and then they passed it on to me. So normally I go out looking for a particular plot or a particular site that interests me or whatever, and I don't want the vineyards to resemble each other. I want them all to have a strong personality. But I'm really grateful for this one, because on paper, the Choiseul in Beaune, nobody's even heard of it. It's not a famous terroir. It's a very small plot. It's a relatively modest appellation.
Yeah.
And would I ever have spent so much time in a vineyard like this if I'd had already some Grand Cru or a bit of a Rabelais or something like that? Probably not. But now I'm conscious of, firstly, what I've been able to do with it agronomically and in the winery. And secondly, the value added that you can have by having that little degree of intimacy with the parcel and really getting to know it and spending a lot of time in it. That's something I want to replicate across all the parcels we get. And it's one of the things that's convinced me how essential it is to remain small. Yeah. And to look at the intrinsic quality of a parcel rather than its reputation. Because if there's, the bigger there's a delta between what is being done and what can be done, the more interesting it is in a lot of ways.
And it's a million different decisions, right? But what, from kind of when you first started to now, what are kind of some of the biggest takeaways, especially this parcel?
I mean, I think it's gotten better faster than I ever would have thought. So we gathered more low-hanging fruit sooner than I believe. Because the truth, back in 2019,
2018, you didn't.
No, I managed it for a few years for my friends. And back in 2019, this vineyard got a letter from the commune saying it was so badly maintained that if it carried on like that, it would be repossessed by the commune. It was essentially a semi-abandoned, right? And now look at it, so.
With the industrialization of wine and the commercial winemakers, it's like there's such a focus on, like, they can use whatever they want, and then for the people who are actually doing more biodynamic and organic farming, it's crazy expensive to maintain. Like, and then you get constant checks. So a lot of the actual, they don't even bother with it, but they're still using those practices.
And you use it means you have to use so much copper. Or for a domain in Beaune, they only have the right to use 2 kilograms of copper per hectare this year. They use so much in the last 3 years. There's a rolling average, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't used 2 kilograms this year either, but that's not because we said but that's our standard, is to keep it very low. Complements it as good other things to boost its efficacy, and then keep a margin that if you really need to do it, you can do it. You can hit it hard. Sometimes in Burgundy you do not to hit it hard. Yeah. A lot of people with a fin spec this are only farmed at places like California or Oregon. They use 3 treatments a year with neem oil, and then they're good. Like, But it's really not the way here. 2024, we had to do 33 treatments in this vessel just to make 180 liters of wine.
Yeah.
It's incessant.
They're very hands-on.
No, it was awful.
Again, how do you have time?
We didn't have, apart from 2 weeks in August, we didn't have more than 3 consecutive days without it raining. So what do you do?
I know, that was disturbing. So now we're in the cellar here in Pommard. I know you make a variety of different wines, but I have to talk to you about Aligoté, because I think it is such an exciting. I mean, you won't say new because historically it
has a very long history in Burgundy as a secondary white variety. But it was maybe planted. If you go back 200 years, it was planted on some better terroirs than is often the case today. Hillside sites was quite common in the Côte d'Or, and it was often pruned with spur pruning rather than cane pruning. It's naturally quite productive. There's some varieties like Sauvignon Blanc. If you spur prune them, you don't get any fruit at all because they're really not very fruitful close to the trunk. But if you do cane pruning on Aligoté, you make huge crops. It's not ripe. And then there are bad clones and bad selections and things. So for me, it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, especially obviously with the warming climate. But site selection, Mike, can you talk to me about how you even approach that?
I think Aligoté, from scratch, you don't necessarily have a huge choice about that very much. But generally speaking, they're below the communal appellations and so on the other side of the RN74. But there are also some high up in the hills. The main thing is to look for is really good genetics. So older vines, pre-clonal. So clones coming in France, 1971 onwards, and anything before that is pre-clonal. Yeah. And we have vines from 1928,
is it in like
1934,
Parcel,
36. Yeah, everything before 71 was Mazel selection because there were no clones.
So how do you even go about kind of sourcing that? And that was your choice to do for.
Well, it's not. I think it tends not to be ripped up because if you think it costs, let's say. €3.50 per plant, and then the labor of planting a vineyard, all of the trellising, all of the costs, and you have to sacrifice at least 3 years of production. If you have an existing vineyard that's still producing a good amount of wine, and Aligoté tends to produce a good amount of wine, you have no incentive to rip it up and replant it. So there's a lot of old vine Aligoté around, and then you just want to find the good spots and gradually we're bringing it into domain production and farming it with the same methods that you saw in the Choix, one of the philosophies that I have. You should treat everything the same way. And now, of course, there is a hierarchy of appellations. Some sites are better than others. I'm not pretending that's not true, but I would prefer to reveal that rather than reinforce it. And so we give up this, Grand Cru treatment, if you wish, to everything. And then let the chips fall where they may, right?
And Aligoté is typically more on those kind of higher sides, and it's more kind of
higher or low.
It's supposed to be quite like fresh, very like.
Yeah, it's naturally very high in acidity.
And yet, like I know in terms of like oak usage, you use 100% new oak
on everything,
which typically a lot of people would think it's like typically in their mind they would think that's very heavy-handed. I know there was some other influences.
I mean, again, Lalou Bize Leroy or Beaune, it was the first time I tried an Aligoté that was really quite interesting. And she does that same farming, no matter the appellation, same winemaking, no matter the appellation, and it works great. You have low yields, you have high acidity, qualities, moderate alcohol percentage, so limited solvent capacity. Aligoté gobbles up oak, the way Chardonnay did 20, 30 years ago. I think Chardonnay is harder to get an oak to wine balance than Aligoté because it's a bit higher in alcohol, a bit lower in acidity often, and so it doesn't need supplemental sweetness. It can't digest it the same way, and a bit more alcohol. It extracts a bit more from the barrels often.
No, it's just really interesting because I kind of think most people think that's like counterintuitive. But it really does bring it together very beautifully. And I mean, yes, we have like Daphne and some of her Aligotés do go more, I think you said before, just the price of a Grand Cru more shade. So
in many cases, and I mean, I think in the glass they often put that up too.
Yeah, and
they're not as good as her Chardonnay Morichet.
Yes, and I mean,
you line them all up and knock them down. It is the first wine in the range for a reason. It's not her best wine, but it's a great wine, and it shows what you can do if you just remove the constraint.
And I'm not going to ask you because I know some of your bottles are they're very expensive on the market itself, but I know it's different to Cellar and Devane. And so I'm going to talk to you about that because I know that there is a big difference between what the
No, 20,
the domain
20x,
or the
20 to
domain
30x is what we're
sells it for, and then it's just, it's the distributor, it's the restaurants, it's the market itself. But how do you think that aligote can kind of sit in the market? Do you think it can kind of play in that?
that's for the market to decide. It's not certainly not how we price the wines. They're expensive. We have expensive practices, so I make an apology for that. But they're not. They're really a tiny fraction. But there's a lot of scarcity, and it's new, and people are curious, and spend a lot of money on a lot of things. I sometimes buy bottles of wine for more money that makes sense because I really want to drink it, and so I can understand the reflex. I have 8,000 bottles in my private cellar, so I'm not going to tell people they should be more restrained or more sensible. It's like, why do I need eight? What am I going to do with 8,000 bottles of wine? It's a lot. I mean, okay. It's I'm 36, but it's still
a really
a lot.
good time.
It's still a lot. Yeah, no, you can have a lot of fun, and you should share a lot of it, and then it's great.
And you think it's got like good ageability?
Oh yeah, it's bulletproof. We're typically between pH 3.05 to pH 3.2 max. The highest pH I haven't had is 3.2. And then we do 20 to 23 months on full lees.
Yeah.
In your barrels in a very reductive environment, and then we bottle it with DM30, so under 20 or 15 to 20 ppm of free SO2 on 65 total on the night. So, and just in terms of the chemistry, everything is there to age. And with our own vignettes, we'll push the concentration higher, push the ripeness higher. I never tasted an overripe aligote. I don't think it exists.
No,
it's not possible.
I don't think they have that.
So you pick by the end when you're done with the rest,
Yeah.
And if you wait an extra week, latest they've gone is October 2nd. And also there's some growers like Cellar was famous for crushing his fruit a lot before pressing, taking a lot of solids. I mean, when I first made my first aligote, I didn't even have a pump. We had a basket press and a barrel and a funnel.
Yeah, it still works out up.
Two buckets, and we filled the barrel with juice from the bucket and then fermented it into the barrel and left it for 24 months and bottled it from the barrel, and there you go. So it's not. Sometimes you see people say, "Oh, but there's." There's a funny critique that I saw somebody saying the wine was like this is too perfect, or this is too much, this or that. We genuinely just crushed the fruit, pressed it, put the juice and everything in the barrels, and that's it. We didn't do anything.
Well,
we chose the barrel, of course. We chose the barrel very attentively.
That's what you do before.
And you pick the right harvest date and so on. But there's not. It's not like we're going around like adding things. We're doing very much. And then the one we don't rack, we don't fine. So there's nothing, and it's just the juice, right? We don't add the acidity. Sometimes we make chapter, but try not to.
Yeah, but the way that you got into where we are standing right now, you said it was 19th century history at Oxford. You were the president of the wine circle at Oxford, which I know is quite a renowned, probably the world's most renowned kind of tasting group.
We had a good time.
It's a pretty good way to get into the world of wine. And then you started to do kind of a harvest. But was there a moment where you kind of realized kind of on this journey that you're like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, or just a moment or story?
I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about it now, I have to say. For a long time, I just was working so much that I didn't think about, more existential stuff. I was just busy doing things and trying to, support a family and all these things.
Yeah.
Create something. I didn't really have time to be. And I started very small. I started with 2 barrels of Chambord. Wouldn't have been the end of the world. If I hadn't liked it. 2018, I didn't like it since over there. I never saw. I had an ambassador from a interesting, in the country I've had quite interesting. Came to visit recently. I opened God with her to talking about progress and improvement. It's not. I think it's like everything. It's the same. I met some athletes, musicians, people who are very successful, finance, whatever, and everyone looks at what they've achieved, and everyone thinks, what's the magic trick, or there must be some talent. You just have to want it a lot, and then
it seemed like the pursuit of perfection.
It was very iterative, actually, much less glamorous.
Yeah.
Than people think. And everyone with wine, everyone's like, oh, but do you do this or do that? And then people are like, oh, but do you do that? And now you're always looking to people are looking to externalize quality onto a technique or a particular process that is somehow going to be the magic trick. But if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. It's not. And there isn't really anything like. There are some details, some pieces of proprietary information, I think, in terms of choosing your barrels, some of those details. And there are maybe a few little things, but it's not the big picture of it. And I'm sure, I've had the opportunity to ask those sorts of questions of most of the the greatest winemakers of France, at least in some of the others for the rest of the world, I think they all say pretty much the same thing. And it could be a little, you don't believe it at first. People are saying, oh, I don't really do that much. No, actually, that's actually the truth.
Yeah. And I've to talk to you a little bit more on like the what kind of wine critic side. I know there's always this kind of push-pull. I don't think so much in kind of like this next generation, but in terms of points, like it's always kind of the two-sided debate. What do you think kind of the future of kind of critics and points are going?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think the advantage of points is it means the critic has nowhere to hide. So they have to take a stance that's comfortable and easily understandable. You can't hedge it. So as a critic, it's very tempting to be sort of conflict averse and to sort of say, it's good in parts,
Yeah.
Very interesting. When it's just words, it's very easy to avoid taking a stance about something, to be evasive, and having to score wines does oblige that. Equally, there's a lot of compression and clearly also inflation of scores, which makes it harder to operate in that space and say things that are fair without seeming punitive. Anything below 92 today is considered as like a don't buy, which is, even when I started this 10 years ago, at least the 90 was not a score that people would be incensed by. So today, there are plenty of producers who think they should be scored in a 3-point scale between 97 and 100 every year. And so how do you operate independently and with integrity in that kind of world? It's very difficult.
I know we're talking about kind of the 1% of the world of wine when we're talking about those kind of scores. And when you look at the kind of...
I don't know, I think more like the 10%. A lot of very good scores.
Keep it 100.
Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a star.
And that's the thing.
And a lot of very good wines out there.
There's a lot of critics that do head out a lot of 100-point scores.
And just the point to identify a very good tasty wine, and that's fantastic. That's 100, great. Or are we really talking about a profound experience? I think wine can be that, but it isn't very often. That's just how it is. And then like most things like cuisine,
what do you think needs to, or if anything needs to kind of change in the way that like the wine market needs to be communicated more on board? So I'm giving you the big questions to finish up. I
think people, everyone wants to be authentic, but very few people want people to see what their authenticity would look like. There's a lot of people trying to look authentic who are not, and so that's the problem with people. Should just do that. I guess I was once thinking of doing sort of retiring wine critics like advice to winery proprietors. One of them would be not to take criticism any more seriously than you take praise. Which works when inverted.
Yeah.
And then the other would be never let yourself be photographed doing something that you wouldn't actually do.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's just a lot. There's a lot of that. I don't think that works. Yeah, I don't think it works very well because people
we have you on camera just pouring out and flecking the ball.
Well, yeah, I nothing to hide in that regard.
No.
But I also have employees, and it's not just me doing it. I don't know. I'm the pretense that it's until 2023. It was just me. Cool. No, it's different. But I'm not about to go and be photographed in a suit cleaning the drain with some brush that's just been handed to me off camera. That's not. So I think there's just people. The only true authenticity is that sells is actual authenticity. The simulacrum of authenticity is not the future of wine marketing.
Yeah.
And people better say we have a nice brand, this is a nice product, and you can buy it for a nice price, rather than everyone trying to be an artisanal genius.
It's a lot of noise.
And there are not many fanatic, obsessive people in the world who are really very interested in something. Although it's perfectly honorable for wine to be a business in the way that growing sweet or carrots is a business. It's not. You don't expect people to create this sort of huge philosophical raison d'etre for why they're growing those products. Why does every winemaker need to have that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine. Yeah. We don't need very much of this stuff. Particularly what we're trying to do. It's like the world level market doesn't need very much of that. I don't want to make too much.
Favorite hidden gem wine regions? I know you probably won't speak to producers of sorts.
Well, I would say someone like Jean-Marc Vincent in Centenaire, people down in the Fête Chalonnaise, Vincent Duroy Jean Fial, Maxime Cotenceau in Bruxelles. Because there's this idea that all Burgundy is like Christ, like this stuff.
Yeah, because people drop the wines where it's like
And everyone wants it.
On a,
the more expensive it
on a
is.
Tuesday night, like people who are Soms who don't have the budget, what would you recommend?
So those would be some people, and even going a bit further south to the Mackenzie. So Burgundy doesn't have to just be very expensive.
I'm talking about like McConnell,
And that's not very artisanal producers. They're doing a lot of the work that we do, and then because it's a lower appellation, they can't sell it for the price. So
I need a list of those.
I'm happy to send you some of my sort of favorite, insider French wines. Sorry, particularly.
Amazing. And it really is quite remarkable what you have achieved. And when you're just at home with your wife, with Gretchen, if you're sitting, you're opening a bottle of your wine, like how hard is it to not be a critic in that moment? Or do you just sit and enjoy it? What goes through your mind?
There are not many things that I've made that I'm really fully happy with, or happy with at all, and I'm very critical of it. Sometimes though, so every now and then you think, well, it's not so bad. Or it's better than I remembered it. Because in your mind, I could go through a list of everything I don't like every wine. But then it's like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of good. I'm good with that.
Oh, and we're seeing how the market does, determine prices and the quality of things. It's certainly dedicating.
In the long haul, right? In the short term, the market is a betting machine, and in the long term, it's a weighing machine. But we're still in the very short term, so I just hope that we do things seriously, and we do not found wanting when the final weight is called in.
Thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure.